interrogation with the chief of police. I didn't do it, I swear.
Where were you on the night
Turn
of the...
these lights up!
Hi,
Hello.
Hey,
I'm Oliver the Ricketts.
I am a floating head back here.
I'm Jeremy Kessler.
We're about to go see Jonah Hill's mid-90s. I'm really excited, but I don't know what this movie is about beyond it being a coming of age in the mid-90s.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that's what the movie is about.
I only saw half a trailer for this movie, and yeah, I don't know.
I've been listening to the song in the trailer non-stop.
It's a great song.
I don't know what it's called because it's in another language, but it's a great song, and I hope that it's in the movie. It's just, everything looks like it's going to be my kind of movie, you know what I mean?
And it does look like it's going to be very authentic, which is awesome.
Right, which is great, you know.
And I'm really excited to see a movie, like, you're so used to seeing movies that are set in, like, the 70s, the 80s, you know,
right.
Movies that are set, like, back in the day, you know, you're used to all those movies. I'm excited to see a movie that's kind of set, not a movie from the 90s, but a movie that's set in the 90s. Right. And this movie, I think, takes place in, like, well, it says mid-90s, so I'm going to assume somewhere between 94 and 96. I was a small child at that time, but I did very much grow up in the 90s. I was born in 1990. So I'm super excited. I want to see all the things that are going to remind me of not only my childhood, but are going to remind me of my brother. I'm excited to see all that.
And it's interesting that this is probably the first 90s period piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least one serious one.
Right.
Yeah.
I love Jonah Hill. I think Jonah Hill's a really talented guy, so...
Hopefully it's better than 8th grade.
Oh.
All right, let's go inside. Movie's going to start, and I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
Directionally challenged. It's not my fault. I was just born wrong. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
We just got out of mid-90s.
As you know.
And you guys go around first, because I'm gonna gush about this movie. Go ahead.
The movie had these, had some, I don't know, I guess like intense scenes that just hit me in a way that I think if I weren't in a movie theater, I might have paused it and had to like take a minute. And that just doesn't happen to me when I watch movies. I don't know, they really did something right in that respect.
I'm pretty blown away, to be honest. Within the first like 5 minutes, and nothing even happened, but within the first 5 minutes, I was like, I like this. It was very emotional. For content that's so basic, it was really like, it really pulled at you a lot. I think that the actors, the kids were fucking awesome. I've seen 100 times worse acting in adults who have been acting for years than these kids who have very little acting experience. And I mean, you give them liberties because they're kids, but no, they were conveying a lot of emotion, and they really did a great job.
I fucking love this movie. You know, a lot of people like really, really loved 8th grade, and if you did, more power to you. Good for you. I'm glad that you have a movie that you like. I didn't care for 8th grade so much, and I think all the things that were missing in that movie were in this movie. In the first 5 minutes, they made sure that you were connected to Stevie, and I think that was the most important thing. That's what rode this movie home. You like Stevie, and you want to see him succeed, and you want him to have friends, but you also don't want him to go down this path that he's going down, and it's a lot of different things pulling you in different directions. But when a movie can make me like the main character off of a scene with no dialogue in its opening, there's something special. This is like special, like once in a lifetime kind of filmmaking. And I think on a deeper level, I really like this movie because it reminded me of me. I got into trouble like this when I was in middle school, and I wasn't a skater, but I definitely identify with a lot of the things that he was going through. And I think that this accurately conveys what that's like.
I never got into trouble in the way that he did, but I definitely hung out with people who did. He, at one point in time, one of his friends gives him advice. Listen, if someone says 5-0, you run. And I remember that happening when I was a kid. You know, like I remember things like that. You know, you were where you weren't supposed to be, doing things you weren't supposed to do with people you weren't supposed to be with. I remember he opened the door into his brother's room, and I like almost like had like deja vu. I was like, holy shit, it looks like my fucking brother's room. And it did. It looked exactly like it, with the wire racks that you put your shoes on, the wire racks that you have all your CDs in, the way that he had all his hats on the walls. I mean, like, everything was like to a T perfect. It was like every detail was like meticulously put in, and it fucking worked. All of it worked.
I don't know, I guess I was a good kid. I didn't know I didn't hang out like that.
I definitely started hanging out with you when I was kind of done getting into trouble.
Yeah,
so
you were my exposure to anything close to that.
one of the best things about the setting is they don't necessarily draw attention to the fact that it's in the 90s. You know what I mean? It just is. And we don't need to stop and do anything that's like, oh, it's the 90s, guys. Look at all these 90s things. They just have these things around that the characters are interacting with, and I think that's what sells it, you know?
Yeah.
They don't go out of their way to do anything that's so 90s that it takes you out of the movie.
There's a lot of ambiguity to the movie, actually. Even though it's called mid-90s, like, they never say what year it is. They never say what time of the year it is. And especially being in LA, you have no idea if it's the summertime or the wintertime or, you know, whatever. They never tell you the date. They never tell you how old Stevie is. They never tell you how old his friends is, because it's like, those are minor details. You would have just gotten your head with like math and shit like that had you known, oh, it happened in this year at this time of year, he was this old, and then he was this old at this time, and then she was this old, and, you know, blah 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 blah.
Well, and the best thing about, like, the ambiguity is because you don't need it to be the 90s for any of these things to happen. These are, like, universal truths of what it's like to be a kid that age, especially a boy that age. Throughout the movie, I found myself laughing. Like, nope, I did that. He's got his mouthwash in the trash on the side of the house. I did that specific thing. And just so much of it is, like, you're doing all these things that you know you're not supposed to be doing, and you're not really comfortable with it.
I don't know. Sorry. The writing in that aspect was great, you know? It just felt real. It felt like just kids hanging out. It didn't feel forced in any way. It didn't feel like a lot of times it's just like, oh yeah, an adult wrote this and doesn't know what's going on.
You're right. It does sound like it's just kids talking and everything like that. But there were certain lines here and there that I'm just like, Jonah Hill fucking wrote that.
Yep.
If you're familiar with the person, you're familiar with the way that they speak, I definitely caught a few lines here and there.
This movie is so funny when it wants to be, and it's so, like, fun. You're getting pulled in because you want to be a part of the world, and you want to, like, have fun with these characters, and you want to be along for the ride, and then something awful will happen to them. And you feel that drop because you've been sucked in and you've been lulled into this sense of security that, like, oh, no, I'm having fun. The other thing I want to say, just is going back to it being 8th grade, I love that none of the kids were, like, normal people, you know what I mean? They were all kids.
Right.
And they all acted very much like kids. But my main issue with 8th grade was that all the kids were kind of, like, off in the same way. Each of these kids has their own quirks and their own, like, issues that are being worked out. And I think that makes it so much more real.
I think the writing in 8th grade lent you to believe that an adult wrote it.
Right.
Which, as Jeremy said, this movie doesn't make you feel like an adult wrote this. It makes you feel like they turned the camera on and just said, talk to each other. Even, like, that whole monologue at the end, you know, where he's trying to give him life advice and shit like that, like, if that was all scripted, I mean, hats off to that kid for performing it the way that he did, because the way he just spoke, it was like as if he was really just telling somebody life advice. Like it was just coming to him as he was saying it. And if somebody wrote all of that down and he was able to portray that in that way, that kid's a great fucking actor. Because I'm convinced that not all of that was written out.
Who wants to go first?
Jeremy.
No, I don't want to go first.
Yeah, you gotta go first.
Why do I have to go first?
I'm gonna give this movie an A-. I really, really, really enjoyed it. The reason I'm giving it an A- and not an A or an A+ is only because I don't know if it has a lot of rewatchability with me. I don't know if I ever need to, like, watch it again. I feel like I saw it. I'm good. And I do feel like at certain times there were a couple loose ends that they kind of left open. So it's kind of like, just as an avid moviegoer, I like to have my movies kind of resolved at the end and not kind of felt like I was just kind of like, all right, we're done now. And I do feel like it kind of ended a little abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think it's a really solid movie. I mean, for me, an A- is a very good grade. So it is a really, 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 really good movie. I'd suggest anybody go see it, especially anybody over the age of like 25. It's different having grown up in that time to go back, because like I said in the beginning, this is an uncharted territory. Nobody's really done a 90s movie yet, and I'm super happy that the first person to kind of do a real 90s movie was Jonah Hill. I enjoyed the movie a lot. I would recommend anybody go see it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about this movie from a lot of people, because it was really fucking good.
All right, Jerry, your turn.
I'm gonna give this movie an A. Just a lot of things in this movie just worked really well. I thought that the camera work was really great, which is not something we talk about a lot, but something about the camera work throughout this had me
there's so many
thinking
cool
about
shots.
it. I don't know if it's just because I've been working a lot more with cameras these days, but something about the camera work in this movie really.
Well, that
had me
one
thinking
take
about it.
alone
I
is
really like that one scene where they were at the party in the girls' living room.
the one shot. Yeah.
Yeah, and they kept, like, every beat of the song, the kids would switch positions.
Because that's part of, you're there with them. You're in the party, you know?
Right.
If it's not already obvious, this is going to be the second A+ that I give, as far as this whole show goes.
What was the first?
Star Wars Born. This is a great friggin' movie. It's going to be on my top 10. Really spoke to me, and I know that sounds corny, but it did. I don't know. I could see myself watching this a lot. It was great.
That's it? That's all you're going to say for an A+?
I've been rambling about this thing for so long.
Yeah.
I'm even having a hard time really picking it apart. There was something really special with the way this whole thing came together.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk some spoilers. The whole thing with the brother, I related to it.
My brother never let me in his room, never let me touch his stuff, never wanted me to hang out with him, never talked to me, had his own thing going on all the time, but I idolized him. Like, I wanted to know what music he was listening to. I wanted to play video games with him. I wanted to be in his room. I wanted to see his stuff. I wanted to do everything like my brother did. But my brother would push me away, just like this brother pushed him away. It resonated with me, the relationship that the two brothers had.
My relationship with my brother was not as tumultuous as this one was. I can say that right off the bat. But a lot of the things that were going on were things that used to go on with me and Theo. Oh, watch out for your little brother. You got to make sure that your little brother's okay. Do what's right by him. And it would get hard, and it would get difficult to have him, like, hold me up to this standard. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, like, a lot of the psychology of the older brother comes from in the first place.
Well, I don't have any brothers. And that's what I think about that part of the movie.
I did want to talk about, because this is what I said I couldn't say before in the spoilers. The brother and Stevie both had a lot of emotional issues. I didn't realize it until after they have their last fight that the brother has something with his face. He doesn't like his face to be shown.
Right.
That's why he wears that mask. He beats him up. He wears the mask, and after he beats him up the third time, he puts his shirt over his face and his hands over his face, and just starts screaming because there's something going on that he doesn't like. You know, almost like when he's beating the shit out of his brother, he's like a different person. And then Stevie was a self-mutilator. You know.
Yeah, that was tough for me.
It was tough, and I didn't realize it at first, because the first shot that they have within the first 2 minutes of the movie, you see he's got a big bruise on his chest, but you also saw him get beat up by his brother. You can tell that he's got a lot going on, and he does not know how to convey it, and that was the scariest, I think, part of this movie. Like, just the fact that he was so hard on himself, and he was such a young kid. You know, there was really no reason for it.
That was almost worse than the car crash.
It was, I think. It was... I mean,
Yeah.
for me at least. As the car crash you saw coming.
Right,
I
and you
feel.
can blame it on somebody too.
Right.
You can go, oh, this fucking kid, you know. I want to talk about the car crash for just a second because I think this is my only issue really with this is that kid would have been in fucking jail. We said even if his mom didn't, you know, press charges for wrecking up the car, which is likely, you still have a DUI. So that I had a little bit of an issue with, but nothing to, you know, ruin my experience. So
I really thought they were gonna kill him.
I
You
thought
know,
it was gonna
I
turn
knew he was
dark.
gonna get to the end of the movie, like, because he's the main character.
Mhm.
But I really did think some fucked up shit was gonna happen at some point in time. But I'm not saying that fucked up shit doesn't happen in real life, but I appreciate at least the fact that they made it a more real thing and not one of these holy shit, that was a tragedy.
and that's more real than all these movie tragedies, which, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Like in Pay It Forward when the other kid stabs him.
right,
Dies.
or American History X when he gets shot in the bathroom. Not that they don't happen in real life, but
Right, that's what I'm saying. Not that these things don't happen in real life. Obviously, it has to come from somewhere, but it's just so much less likely.
it's a great movie.
Absolutely.
Can I change my score to an A?
Uh,
Sometimes they need to hash it out a little bit to
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't have much more to say. It speaks for itself, and
Go see the movie.
you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't. Thanks for watching.
Ride Home Reviews.
Go see mid-90s. I'm sure this won't be the last time I talk about this movie.
I'm going to call Jonah Hill and tell him to put it on VHS.
Give his number? Get him on our show.
Maybe.
Out.